Apologies to anybody who's confused using your Source and Summit Missal as to why the readings were different. The readings for today were from Cycle A. We are in Cycle B. Next year we'll be in Cycle C, and then we'll start back in A. But because today we have the wonderful joy of continuing along the journey of 5 of our initiates into the faith, we do what's called the scrutinies. The scrutinies is part of the rite of RCIA, the rite of Christian initiation for adults. This is specifically for those who are not baptized yet. They have not yet become Christians. So we have a lot of Christians in the RCIA who just need to come into full communion with the church. They're a Protestant, but they've been baptized, and they've come to realize the full revelation of Christianity subsists in the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. But they don't need baptism. They're already Christians. They just need to make a profession of faith and receive first confirmation and Holy Communion after having gone to the sacrament of confession and reconciled themselves to God. We have 5 here, though, who are receiving the ritual sacrament of baptism, by which we are made Christians. Right? It is for these, in their journey, that we do the scrutinies. The scrutinies focus on things like moral conversion or spiritual recreation, as is the case today. Right? And it prepares them along this path to be ready to receive an opening, an enlightening, a recreation, a reconciliation with God. Because here's the thing. We are all of us born into sin because of the fall. That means every single human being is born an enemy of God, and then God fixes that through His Son, by His incarnation, sacrifice, death, resurrection, ascension, the institution of the church, who then administers the gifts of grace won for us by that incarnation of Jesus through the sacraments. In this case, the sacrament of baptism. It reconciles us. It makes us friends with God. So when somebody says, oh, well, they're a good person, they don't really need baptism. That is, as God said to Samuel, seeing with the eyes of humanity. But God sees into the heart. We are all of us enemies of God, not necessarily because of a personal hatred we have for God or a personal sin we've done against God, but that's the disposition we're born in. That's a default, right? And then God reconciles us through Jesus Christ. That fallenness is oftentimes considered or called a blindness. We are unable to see. Now, everybody in the world, no matter whether they're reconciled to God or they're not reconciled to God or whatever, every single person in the world has an intuition that there is a God. There is God. It is the most deluded and academically, intellectually dishonest person who is a true atheist, right? At different points in our lives, we might dabble with this idea of, does God really exist? You might even say to yourself, oh, I've gotten to the point where I don't believe in God anymore. And yet, we still make reference to God as a person, right? A lot of atheists will say, I'm mad at God, so I don't believe in Him. Yep. Okay. Right? We know in our guts that there's a God. And what this is likened to is a blind person being able to not see the light, but feel the warmth of the sun. We know it's daytime. We know there's a sun. We know there's a thing that I'm told is a ball in the sky that creates light and heat. I have no idea what the light is. I don't know what it looks like, and I don't know what anything else looks like because I can't see anything else without the light, but I can feel its warmth. I know it's there. I don't know what it looks like, but I know it's there. This is the sort of the base mode of humanity throughout the centuries until God began to reveal Himself to us. First through Abraham, then very profoundly through Moses, and then through the revelation of the prophets, and then ultimately in His Son, Jesus Christ, revealing to us a little by a little an ability to see the light, I know what the light looks like now. So we sat in darkness because we were blind, but we were able to feel the warmth of the sun. Then slowly, 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 God reveals to us himself as light. Now, do you prefer to wake up middle of the night, dead dark, walk into the bathroom and flip the light right on? Or do you like those soft start lights that people have now? You flip it on and it goes, and it gives you that sort of adaptation, right? We don't like that shock of going straight from dark to light. And God understands that. His revelation to us was therefore given over a period of time in a gentle way that allowed us to get used to each incremental revelation of who he was. First, to Abraham, I am God. I am who am, right? Essentially, I follow me, I will make you a great nation. Abraham doesn't even really know who this guy is. He just knows he can trust him. He's going to make a great nation of me. That sounds great. I'll follow him. Okay, wonderful. Then they go into Egypt. Then Moses comes along and God says to Moses, I am who am. And the revelation of God to the Israelites in the desert was so profound, so shocking, almost overwhelming, that they told Moses, hey, we don't ever want to talk to God again. You go talk to God for us and come back and tell us what he says. Right? And then we continue this sort of enlightening. Now, Jesus performs a miracle today with a man who was born blind. This is important that he's born blind, because people in the past have gone blind and have their sight restored, Tobit being a prime example of that in the scripture, right? But to have a man born blind and have his sight given to him in that moment is something that is of prophetic importance. Okay? It's only the Messiah that can do that. Nobody has ever been able to do it. And there's this indication that if this man was born blind and he regained his sight, this guy's got to be the Messiah. This is why in the longer form of this gospel, the Pharisees are given this dude the third degree. Is it the third degree or 10th degree? The third degree, right? They are just drilling this guy. They're calling his parents in. They're calling his dog in. They're asking everybody, is this really the dude that was born blind that can see now? This can't possibly be. It's not computing for us, because if that's true, then this has to be true. Jesus has to be a prophet. He has to be the Messiah. We don't want to believe that. So you can't possibly be the guy who was born blind. Anybody see the show Chernobyl? Couple of you. Not enough, though, for me to... Did you? I don't think you did. You saw the cartoon, though, probably. All the radioactive cartoons, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, we won't go down that avenue. There aren't enough of you who've seen it to make it worth the while. But here we have a man born blind. Jesus is going to do for him in this miraculous, symbolic way what he's going to do for all of humanity. And something I want you guys to understand when you're reading the New Testament, and you're reading the Gospels in particular, Jesus never tells a parable for individual application. Okay? And he never does a miracle for the sake of the flesh. What does that mean? Let's take the parable of the Good Shepherd. A lot of times we read that and we think, oh, isn't that nice? God left the 99 perfect and came and found me, a sinner. Y'all, there are not 99 perfect people in the world. Jesus is not talking about leaving 99 perfect people and going to find you, the one sinner. In this parable, Jesus is talking about humanity, the one lost sheep, leaving all of the rest of creation, all of the other creatures in the known universe that have not fallen, leaving them alone and going to seek humanity and putting humanity on his shoulders and bringing humanity back and binding the wounds and tending to the illness, okay? Now, you can look at that and find individual personal edification in the idea that Jesus came and found you. If you're a human being, he did do that. But he didn't do that for you. He did that for humanity, of which you are a part. Okay? That's an important bit in understanding what Jesus is doing here. The other important bit is that Jesus does not ever do a miracle for the sake of the flesh. Okay? He doesn't heal the blind man so he can see. He doesn't feed the bellies of the 5,000 with a couple loaves of bread so that they're not hungry anymore. He feeds them actually so that they continue to hunger and hunger for a different thing. Right? He doesn't heal the withered man's hand so that the guy can play thumb war again. Right? He does these things so that people's faith is increased and their understanding of his revelation is made clearer. Okay, this is the purpose of his miracles. We don't need miracles the way that they needed leading up to Christ and in the early church, because so much of God's revelation is clear to us now. He doesn't have to show us these things in wonderful, miraculous ways because we understand them. And that's a wonderful thing. That's a blessed thing. The fact that we don't need miracles, that's a thumbs up. That's a good job. You guys are doing a good job. You understand things well. Okay? So, let's look at this thing. Man's born blind. Jesus comes up to him. Now, this man is the everyman. Okay? He is, remember, Jesus is doing these things for an example of the whole church. This man represents humanity, but not all of humanity. He represents humanity that is longing for God, knows something is wrong, they know they've sinned, they know they've fallen short of the glory of God, and they actually want God to intervene in their life and make the thing better. There are a lot of people in the world, in fact, I'd say most people in the world, Jesus says most people in the world actually, who don't care. They're not interested in being broken or acknowledging they're broken. They're not interested in considering that they themselves are sinful. They're not interested in the fact that they're estranged from God. And they're not interested in the fact that God is offering them a reconciliation because they don't even really believe in the gift that God is offering them. But what this man here is, he's a man like you and I, a man who is open to the redemptive work of God, the enlightening of our mind, and the restoration or the recreation of our souls, our conscience, into communion or friendship with God. Okay? So what does Jesus do? This man is born blind. How many of you were born in sin? Nat. You can raise your hand this time. Good. All of us. Excellent. We all were. That is to say, we were all born blind. There is nothing that we could do. No, we didn't even have enough knowledge to know what things looked like to say, I wish I could see them. We're born blind. We're all born into sin. Sin darkens the conscience, it darkens the mind, it breaks the will, and it causes the intellect, or the appetites, the passions to run amok. You ever wonder why you do things you don't want to do and don't do the things you want to do? It's because your passions are stronger than your will. That is not your fault. That's a result of the fall. Jesus comes to fix that. How does he fix that? He shows us that in this gospel. How did God make the first man? How did God make Adam? Out of clay. God alone can create something out of nothing. God makes clay and fashions Adam out of that clay. Adam, the perfect man, and Eve, his helpmate. Both of these coming from the something that God made out of nothing, so that they could be like him. This is the beauty of the creation of the cosmos. God made the plurality, the diversity of all things that were made, and of all of the things God made. Y'all, he made he made more stuff than our debt, right? He made more things than our national debt. Trillions upon trillions upon trillions of different things God made. You are the best thing that he made. The best thing. Out of all of those things, you are the best. But we got broke. And we got blinded. So as God created for the first time the first man, Adam, out of clay, here, Jesus, who is the Logos, the God the God from God, the light from light, the true God from true God, the one begotten, not made, consubstantial with the Father, the one who in the beginning was with God and was God, the one without whom nothing was made that was made. This one, God, Jesus, the Son of the Father, spits on the ground and does what? Makes clay. And he refashions this blind man, recreates him so that he who was born blind can now see. He can see the light, and he can see all the created things that can be seen by the light. And the man is utterly overjoyed. He cannot understand why these Pharisees are having a problem with the fact that this poor sap can see now. The reason that this reading comes up for these guys during this scrutiny is because what is offered to you in the holy waters of baptism is the recreation of the new Adam and the new Eve. To be refashioned as this man was refashioned by the God who makes clay and forms humanity out of that clay. We who are blind can see. We who are broken are healed. We who were dead are brought to life. We who were slaves are made free in Jesus Christ, who refashions us through the waters of baptism. And that's exactly what y'all are preparing for, the waters of baptism. What happened here in the gospel today has happened for all of these people here baptized. And it will happen for you on the Easter Vigil. Now, if we don't take care of our eyes, we can go blind again. If we don't take care of our eyes, they can get sick and we have to go to the doctor. If we have cataracts, we have to have surgery and have them removed or fixed or reshaped. I don't know what person does to cataracts. What does a person do to cataracts? Do they take them out? They just fold them back? What do they take them out? Okay, good. Let's go with that. So, that's even better, actually. So we've been made to see. God has recreated us in baptism. It is something glorious and worth celebrating every moment of every day of your whole life. If nothing else happens in your life good, that is enough to rejoice. Right? But sometimes when we sin, we darken our eyes again. We get cataracts. Sin are essentially cataracts for the soul. And we need to go to the great ophthalmologist in the sky, right? Jesus, who spits in the ground and makes clay, and have him refashion us once again. When we go to the sacrament of confession, having our sight restored to us, when we go to the sacrament of reconciliation, God heals our sight again, makes it 20/20 again, so that we can see him clearly. And in seeing him clearly, who is the light, we can see all the rest of his created order clearly and the way that he intends it. And we can understand it and we can use it properly and correctly and clearly and well. Just as we cannot see anything around us without light, so also neither can we understand any of the created world without its context within God, who is the light of all creation. God has done that for you. I want you to think about that. Everybody, right now, unless you're moaning about something, everybody right now, just think about this for a second. You were blind and on your way to death, and God gave you sight and put you back on the path of life. Every single one of you were on your way to hell, and God snatched you away from that. Every single one of you were there on your way, and he kept you from going there. Can we not say thank you for that? Can we not rejoice in that reality that God has saved us, that we needed a Savior and he saved us and he gave us sight? And for most of you in here, visiting the sacrament of confession, God has once again and again and again and again restored that sight. And y'all, he will never, ever grow tired of forgiving you. There is nothing you can do in this life that is so big, so grievous, so bad, so shameful that God cannot restore clarity of sight to you and remove that cataract. Nothing. Can't do nothing. Can't do anything. Too big that God cannot restore your sight. And he's done that for you time and time again in the sacrament of confession. Y'all, we are such a blessed people. We are so wonderfully blessed. And we are today focusing on these 5 who will be initiated into that great family that we call the Christian household of God, the church, on Easter Sunday. Let us all restore or renew our gratitude to the Lord for what he's done for us. And in this moment, take time to pray for those who are about to receive what we so oftentimes take for granted, the clear sight of the face of God.